Today we're going to talk about Divergent. It literally took me like a day and a half to read it because it was so good. I don't want to give like a full, I don't want to tell you exactly what it's about because then it's going to kind of ruin it. I don't want to have any spoilers, although there'll probably be some. So I'm just warning you. But I do want to tell you what it's about, and I hope you guys read it because it was really good. So let me tell you, this book came out a long time ago and I've been hearing a lot of things about it, but I never had the time to read it. The movie even actually already came out, but I haven't seen it because I was like, I want to read the book before I watch the movie. So I haven't seen it. I'm a little, I don't know. After I read the book, I don't know how I'm going to like the movie. So this book is set in the future.
There's 5 sections. The first one is abnegation, then there's candor, amity, dauntless. Wait, that was more than 4 fingers.
Okay, so there's abnegation, dauntless, amity, candor, and erudite. I think that's how you pronounce it. The people in abnegation are selfless and they were great. Oh, and they're also in charge of the government. The people in amity are friendly, they're peaceful, they wear yellow, and I think they are the counselors. And I think the nurses too. The people in candor are honest and they wear black and white. The people in dauntless are brave and they wear black and they also have tattoos and piercings. And they're also like the cops, kind of like the army kind of thing. And lastly but not least, we have the erudites and they wear something blue all the time and they're the smart ones. They're very intelligent. And there's this particular person from erudite who is known as Janine, who I myself despise. Aside from Peter, I can't. I'm even beginning to talk without telling you what the book is about. Oh, and the erudites are the teachers and the researchers, like Janine. So this book begins when Natalie Pryor is cutting Beatrice's hair. Does that make sense? Natalie's cutting Beatrice's hair. And they're not allowed to look in the mirror. She just quickly looks in the mirror and she sees how much he has changed. And then she goes on to talk about, well, her mom asked her if she's nervous because today, in the book, is the aptitude test. On the way to the aptitude test, Beatrice notices that her brother Caleb gives a seat to a man in the bus, and she realizes how she's so different from him because he's always selfless, he's always trying to help people, and she is not like that. She knows that he belongs in abnegation, but she knows that she is not like completely welcome there because she doesn't have all the characteristics. So once they're at the testing center, they all go separately. There's this lady who is from Dauntless. Her name is Tori, and she is the one that's gonna test Beatrice. And she gives her something to drink, which immediately puts her into the simulation. So Beatrice wakes up, and she's suddenly in the school's cafeteria, and she sees on the table a knife and a piece of cheese. And she doesn't know what this is, and they tell her to choose, but she's asking why, and she decides not to choose, and then suddenly they disappear, but a dog appears, and the dog is growling, the dog is mad. She realizes it would have been a good idea to grab that cheese or the knife. So then now she starts thinking that maybe she can cover herself or with the cafeteria tables from the dog or run away from the dog, but she knows that he's probably too fast for her. So she decides, she thinks about what she knows about dogs, and then she decides to get on her knees and kind of bow down, kind of like how a dog is, in a dog's position. And suddenly, when she thinks that she's gonna get killed, the dog starts licking her. So then she's like, oh, you're not a beast after all, blah, blah, blah. Suddenly, this random girl appears and the dog starts growling again, super mad and vicious. So then the dog is about to attack the girl, and Beatrice, she runs and then she chases the dog, and then she falls on top of him, and then she suddenly wakes up, the dog is gone, the girl is gone. But then she realizes she's back into her seat and she wakes up, but there's no one. There's a lot of mirrors around her, but she cannot see her reflection. She eventually opens the door and she finds herself in a bus where there's a man who she cannot see his face, but his hands are like burned, kind of scarred-ish. And he asks her if the man who is on the newspaper, who was a murderer or something, if she knows him. She feels like she does, but she denies it. And he's like, you can save me. Who is this man? You can save me. She keeps denying it, and she says that she has no idea who he is. Beatrice wakes up and she looks at Tori, and Tori is perplexed. She is shocked, and Beatrice asks her what her results were, and Tori says that they were inconclusive. Then Tori continues to explain how if she would have chosen the cheese, she would have been Amity, or it would have leaned more towards an Amity way. But since she didn't pick it, Amity is completely out of the question. If she would have chosen the knife, that would have been Dauntless, but she didn't get that. But as she bowed herself to the dog, that showed erudite. And lying to the man is definitely rule out candor. And jumping on top of the dog to save the girl definitely shows that she has some abnegation qualities. And also, I think not running from the dog was dauntless. I guess because he was really big and scary. Tori tells Beatrice that she is divergent. She must pick between dauntless, erudite, or abnegation. So the Pryor family goes on to the choosing ceremony because it's always faction before blood. So they're gonna start backwards, like alphabetically backwards. So like the Z would go first, and then the A until the end. So Caleb goes before Beatrice, and he picks erudite. So surprisingly, he doesn't stay with abnegation. Beatrice is thrown off. She doesn't know what to do. She feels super guilty because now he chose to leave his parents, and she doesn't want to leave her parents alone. So she decides that this is it. She is gonna stay in abnegation and just marry someone there, and that is gonna be it for her. So when Beatrice gets called, she must go up there and slice her hand with, not completely, but like slice a little bit of her hand with a knife. And then she's going to spill her blood either over gray stones, which is abnegation, glass, which is erudite, water, which is candor, earth, which is amity, or lit coals, which is dauntless. Now that I think about it, I think water was for erudite and glass for candor. I'm not sure. Forgive me if I'm wrong. So, I guess, not surprisingly, Beatrice chooses dauntless, and her father feels betrayed. He is really pissed off, but her mom is smiling. She goes on to go to the dauntless initiation, in which they first have to jump onto the moving train. And they get informed that if they don't make it through initiation, they would be factionless. So I guess they would be poor, and like she wouldn't have a family and all that stuff. Another part of the initiation, Eric informs them that they must jump off of the building into the inside, and it's like really dark, and it's really like where they're gonna jump off is really tall, so everybody's like scared. Beatrice decides to jump first. So she goes on and she lands on a net, and she's laughing, and a man who she does not know who it is, but it turns out to be helps her out of the net, and he asks her what her name is. And she's about to say Beatrice, and then he tells her that she can start over, and then she decides that it's just Tris, and he says, "Welcome to Dauntless." Then they explain, Eric and Four are helping out with the initiation. Initiation is divided into mental, physical, and emotional. There's a lot of other things that go on. We get introduced to Peter, who I completely despise, who was a transfer from Candor, and now he's in Dauntless. Christina, Will, Al, Myra, I don't know exactly how you say her name, Janine, who else do we meet? We meet a lot of different people, but I'm not going to give you the details because I really want you to read the book. Oh, and the first tattoo that Tris gets, it's on her collarbone, and she gets 3 birds, one for each family member that she left behind. So throughout the training / initiation, they have a visitation day in which Natalie, which is Triss's mom, she goes on to visit her. She asks how she's doing. Triss says that she doesn't really belong in Dauntless, and then Natalie takes her through some hallways where it's alone, and she asks her what her results is, and then Triss reveals that they were inconclusive, and then she explains how there's a lot of kids from abnegation that get those test results, and then she asks Beatrice to go find her brother in in Erudite, and research the simulation serum. Oh, and this simulation serum was made by Janine. Triss asks her mom how she knows some of these things and all of that, and then she figures out that her mother was Dauntless before. Eventually, Eric injects Triss and all of the Dauntless initiation people, like the new people, with a serum that he says is a tracking device because they don't want any people to go missing. She eventually is kissing someone, and as he touches the part where she got injected, she realizes that the serum is not a tracking device. It is a transmitter that connects the mind to a simulation program. So then a war starts, and abnegation people are being attacked, and a few of them die. And this book ends with For and Triss leaving, and they are going towards the Amity complex. If you like dystopian novels, this is definitely a must read. I am 100% in love with it. I also selected a few parts of the book, and I'm gonna read it to you guys. So the first part I chose is when Triss's father says, "Valuing knowledge above all else results in a lust for power, and that leads men into dark and empty places." So this quote definitely gives you an insight of what's gonna happen and who's gonna do something wrong. Janine. For, who is definitely the perfect man, says, "But becoming fearless isn't the point. That's impossible. It's learning how to control your fear and how to be free from it. That's the point." There has been some hints that For is interested in Triss, and one of the parts is where he says, "My first instinct is to push you until you break, just to see how hard I have to press." And then you see Triss's reaction. Well, you don't see, you read. Well, I mean, you can actually see because you start imagining in your head. But then he says, "Fear doesn't shut you down. It wakes you up. I've seen it. It's fascinating." This other person, before that person dies, I'm not going to say if it's a guy or a girl, that person says, "Be brave, Beatrice. I love you." And you can tell who's falling in love with who, and who's going to kiss who, and who's going to do something wrong, and who's going to die. I would be reading Insurgent. I might buy it. I don't know. I'm still debating it. I already filmed the book review for 13 Reasons Why, which is probably behind me. And I've started reading Delirium, so hopefully you guys like it, and I will do the review after I'm done with that book. I would probably try to read that one slower and catch more deets on it. Well, that was all for today. I hope you guys like these reviews, and I will see you guys later. Bye!
Como el aire que está flotando